How will Donald Trump respond to this legal setback? Joining me now is CNN legal analyst Areva Martin. Thanks for joining us, Areva. I mean, quite a triumphant message, actually, from Comey there. But at the same time, we've heard from the White House that this isn't over. And it probably isn't, is it? Because it's legally complex.
Yeah, rarely are lawsuits over involving the president when he loses at the district court level. We can and should expect that there will be an appeal of this decision because we know that James Comey and Tish James are on Donald Trump's retribution list, and he's not going to stop with one district court judge's ruling in terms of his efforts to go after these two individuals. But I think Comey put it best when he says, I guess that was, his statement about incompetence, I think sums up best what we see here today. The law is very clear about who has the authority to act as a prosecutor, and Halligan did not have that authority. The Justice Department failed to take the steps necessary after the 120 days of her interim appointment ended to make her a lawful U.S. Attorney General. So this is not a shocking decision by this court. And in fact, I would say it was anticipated.
The problem seems to be around her as opposed to the case, though. And the White House is making that point. The case isn't over. Probably is for her, though, right?
Well, absolutely. The judge did not reach the merits of the case. So the White House is right in that regard. But where the White House is wrong is that the law that says the interim attorney general, U.S. attorney, only has 120 days in that interim appointment before some action has to be taken is a constitutional provision. It's in federal statute. So to ignore that 120-day period and to act as if this was some kind of minor technicality, I think is misguided by this White House and has caused this comedy of errors that we've seen with other interim U.S. attorneys who have faced very similar results from district court judges.
What is the strategy here if we look back on how Donald Trump handles these events and his team? I guess this case in itself doesn't matter entirely to them. In the past, they've just tried to get things in front of the Supreme Court. It's a different sort of strategy, really, than what we're used to. Is that what you think they're trying to do here again?
I think that's a part of the Trump strategy, is to get all the cases, as you said before, this favorable Supreme Court, a Supreme Court that has been quite open and receptive to cases filed by this administration and ruling in ways that are favorable to this administration. But the reality here is he can't just leap over the district court, and he can't just ignore the fact that this interim U.S. attorney did not have the lawful authority. She was not a lawfully appointed U.S. attorney that had the ability to sign the indictment, to oversee the grand jury proceedings involving Comey and Tish James. So there is a lot of work to be done by this Justice Department and by this administration, I think, before they're going to have any success with regards to either of these prosecutions.
For those outside the country who haven't followed the ins and outs of this, just explain how qualified Halligan was for this role.
Not qualified at all. This was her first criminal prosecution. She is not a career criminal prosecutor, which is what we've seen in some of these other cases where the interim U.S. attorney has been disqualified. In those cases, some of those cases, at least you've had career prosecutors who also were engaged in the prosecution. This is a very unusual case because you have this very inexperienced lawyer who's never run a federal, U.S. attorney's office, who's never prosecuted a federal crime of alleged crime of this nature, who goes into a grand jury, who oversees that grand jury, who herself signs off on the indictment without the assistance of career prosecutors. This is important to note that the career prosecutors said there was no case, that this is a case against Comey and Tish James that had no legs. And Donald Trump had to go out and find a loyalist in Halligan to move forward. And we should note that there were some other mistakes that were made along with this presentation to the grand jury. So again, no surprise here that this U.S. district court determined that Halligan had no lawful authority, and really sending a message to the White House that it matters who brings prosecutions under our federal system. And if you're going to have prosecutors bringing grand jury indictments, you better have the lawful appointment, which in this case, the judge made very clear was not the case.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Areva, appreciate you as ever.